Hello, Armoured Pants here, and I have a video for you, this time the fourth in the American line, the M7 to Tier 4. I hope you looked at the other three videos on Tier 1, 2 and 3, and now you're ready to have a look here at this tank and take it out on the battlefield. Now, as always, we're going to use Blitz hanger for the tech spec, and I hope you're using Blitz hanger. Now, this tank will cost 45,000 credits, 2,500 XP, preceded by the M5 Stuart, and next up is the M4, or the T1 Heavy, which is a heavy tank. The M4 is a medium tank like this. This tank is significantly different to the M5 Stuart in that its upgraded gun is 75mm. It does significant damage, between 120 and 140 damage. It has AP and APCR shells, we'll talk about that in a second. However, it has a long reload time, so different gameplay, different game style to the M5 Stuart. Now, this has APCR shells. When to use APCR? Well, APCR shells do less damage, but they have more penetration than AP shells. So they are called premium rounds. They cost gold or credits, and they should be used only when you're up against a tank with extremely heavy armor that you can't penetrate with AP rounds. So if you're confronted with a red target or a lot of red on it, switch to APCR. You'll see that decrease down from red so that you can pen it. And therefore that's when you use APCR shells. So they do less damage, however sometimes they are necessary to use to pen the enemy. So even though they cost gold or credits, and I'd suggest you use credits instead of gold, you should load them up. Particularly if you're up tiered later on in this tank, you will need them to pen, for example, KV1s, T1 Heavies, etc. Now this tank has 8 degrees of gun depression, which is not so bad, not great, but not so bad. But it's very fast, and it has really fantastic armor. This tank, I've played against it and with it, it's really going to bounce shells. The purple, the gun mantlet, is impenetrable, and what's yellow and red and orange here, what's orange and red in particular, is difficult to penetrate and will bounce shells. The curvature of the armor on this tank is unusual. Even on the back side here, look at that curve. Looks a little bit like Kim Kardashian, and it will bounce shells. Also the fact that it's so fast, when moving at that high speed, and with that armoured profile and that curved armour, it's going to bounce a significant amount of shells for you. And bouncing shells, as we said, has a double whammy effect in that it doesn't do damage to you, but also you're stopping damage being done to your teammates. And you're also then, if you aim your shells well and you can do damage to the enemy, you have a quadruple whammy effect. You're not receiving damage, and you're doing damage, and you're also stopping the enemy player doing damage to your teammates. We spoke about game philosophy. The philosophy of this game is pretty simple. You should look at it this way, which is a way that I think all new players should look at it. When your total pool of your hit points, when all 7 players' hit points, when the total pool of that reaches 0, you lose. When the enemies reach 0, they lose. So therefore, anything that stops you or your teammates from receiving damage helps you. And this is the basic game philosophy that you should always keep to the forefront. We spoke about angling there. We've spoken about this many times before. But basically, if you angle a tank, it has much better chance of bouncing a shell than when it's front on. Now, there's something a bit special in this game. What is that? Well, it's the resonate medal, or Raz, or Rez, or whatever you want to call it. And what is that? Well, that's basically when you kill all 7 tanks on the enemy team. It's difficult to do. It doesn't happen very often. And I have a separate video on Raz, so watch it on channel. I actually just uploaded it today as well, so it's there for you to have a look at. If you want to get my theory on Resonate and how to get this medal and how to play for it, then watch that video. I think you'll find it very interesting, and I think it will help you a lot. Now, one thing I would say is that you don't go out in any game to get a Raz medal, because it's just simply not possible, and if you try for it, usually it ends badly. Watch the other video on it anyway, and let me know what you think, and if you agree with me, because after all, it is only my opinion. Now, what am I doing? As I've always done on this map, and as you've seen several times before, I go straight up the middle here. I use the speed of the tank to get up and to spot. And you can see there what I meant about the armor profile in this tank. I just bounced a shot there, and that shot was from a Panzer 4D, which also has a very good gun too. And you can see there my gun straight through his turret, so the gun that I have has decent pen. And you saw when we looked at the tech spec, if you didn't get all the details, you can go back, watch again, and stop it and replay it. I'm using gun rammer, so I have the shortest reload time possible. I'm using supercharge, and I'm using refined gun. so that I can get the maximum penetration over distance and to maximize the muzzle velocity, and also allow me to fire as many shells as possible. Again, that's my personal preference as to how I like to load up my tanks. Not everybody would agree with that, but we all have our different play styles, etc. But certainly it's worked well for me, and I hope it will work well for you too. Now I decided to come off the hill here and to pop down here to try to take this guy out. What I'm going to do here is, this is peek-a-boom, so basically I'm rolling from cover out into the open to fire, then back into cover. I'm using the natural incline of the hill to give me a defense, and then when I'm reloaded, pop back out again and I get the kill. Now I'm using the incline of the hill to create natural cover, and I'm making it very difficult for him to pen me, and he doesn't have the gun penetration to get down onto me, and I'm able to take him out. Now I'm going to roll up and see where the enemy are. I'm cautious, I'm waiting to reload. We said that the secret of peek-a-boom or peek-a-boo or sneak-a-boom is that you keep in cover when you're reloading and only pop out when you're reloaded. So you're only exposing yourself when you're active, that is when you're doing damage. When you're inactive, when you're reloading, you're keeping yourself safe, making sure that you're not taking any damage, making sure that your hit point pool is conserved, but also helping your team, because you're part of the total hit point pool, and as we said, we want to keep that from reaching zero. So I am now looking at the minimap. I now know where the enemy reds are, so I feel it's safe for me to move up without taking any damage. So I said that what we should always do is move from cover to cover. Now that you're a bit more experienced and you've watched other videos, we can expand on that theory and say you can move out into the open and move into non-cover areas if you know where the reds are. And that's map awareness, it's mini-map awareness, knowing where the reds are. And then you can move into the open, because it's the same as being in cover. If there's no reds there to hit you, it doesn't matter, it's effectively the same as being in cover. Now I'm using the speed of the tank to get away from that Matilda, and I'm going to come up here on the South 40. I need to be careful because the South 40 has a great gun, but I use the speed of my tank to get around him. He can't get a bead on me. I come up behind him and I get the next kill, so that's 3 kills and 3 enemy tanks down. I'm also helping my team a lot. Now I'm going to try to pen this Matilda. Matilda is a notorious difficult tank to pen, but I managed to get a good shot on him there. And you'll actually find that when firing and when you're in tier 4, you're going to come up against the Matilda. It's an extremely tough cookie, so have APCR loaded up, because if you're not behind a Matilda, or certainly side onto it, you're going to find it difficult to pen. And even back onto him there, I'm out of sight, I'm not taking any risks. I'm going to use the APCR round because I simply want to make sure that I get the kill. I don't want any more bounces. Not just for the sake of my own gameplay, but also for that of my team, because the Matilda has a very fast reload, 3.3 seconds. I actually have a video on it, and it does a lot of damage. It has a very good and accurate gun, and he could have taken out several of my teammates. It takes me 10 seconds to reload, right? Over 10 seconds to reload. So he can get in almost 3 to 4 shots in the time it takes me to reload. So if I miss, and my teammates are all one-shots, he can actually take out 3 or 4 of them in that period of time. Again, this is just thinking, this is game philosophy, game theory, you know, being cognitive of the fact that if you miss and you don't damage, the damage that can be done to your teammates or to you in that period of time. Now I'm getting into a bit of a brawl here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to use the awkward angles of my tank to bounce as many shots as possible. I'm going to keep moving, back off here, make him miss. Again, as I said, stopping is dropping, so moving is grooving. So when I keep moving like that, I make it extremely difficult for him to hit me. You saw he missed a shot there, and I received no damage in that brawl. Whereas if I'd stayed still and stopped and given an easy target, I could have taken 2, 3, maybe more hits from him and from the Panzer III there. Now the game is won, and now I'm being a little bit selfish here. I'm actually waiting for the A20 to take him down to a 1-shot for me, just because I know I've done all 6 kills and I want to get the 7th, just to get the Resonate medal. A nice compliment there from one of the opposition team. Now, of course, if it was close, if it was a closer game, and if the A20 was down, and looked like you might get killed by that guy, I would have fired into him earlier. But of course, as the game is won, and I'm cognitive of the number of kills I have and the hit points of my enemy and the hit points of my teammate, I delayed a little bit there. So a little bit selfish of me, and I don't normally play like that. So please forgive me. Indulge me this so that I could get the Resonate medal. But as I said, I played for Resonate medal at the end, but for the previous 6 tanks I did not. I just wanted to clear the tanks as quickly as possible, because clearing tanks and doing damage is how you win the game, and it is a team game, it's not an individual game. Individual medals are great, but really it's about being a team player. You cannot win the game on your own. Now, to recap, key points about this tank. It is a very, very good tier 4 medium tank. I really like it. It used to be a tier 5 tank, but since update 5.5 they put it down to a tier 4. It's very fast, so basically you can make the map yours. You saw there at the start, I went all guns blazing, got up to that hill and spotted the enemy. It has a good gun, it's doing big alpha, 120 to 140, maybe even more if you get a good roll. It has an excellent armour profile. You're really going to annoy the enemy tanks with bounce shots in this. And especially keep moving. Use the speed to enhance the armour and to make the angles more difficult. As we always say, stopping is dropping, moving is grooving. As a slow aiming time, so make sure of your shots, because it also has a very slow reload time. And as I said, if you miss a shot, it's almost 11 seconds before you can fire again. Use provisions. Have adrenaline loaded if you can. Spot, scout, and get extra XP, and that all helps towards getting the mastery badges. And the next tank is the M4 Sherman, which is a brilliant tank and one I really like, and there'll be a full review on this channel as well. But as always, don't rush there. Make sure you get really competent in tier 4, because moving up to tier 5 you're really moving into the medium tiers and where the big guys start to play. So you really need to make sure you have your basic skills honed before you move up there, because otherwise you're going to be on the wrong end of a lot of losses. Okay, take care guys, I hope you enjoyed it. See you now. Cheers, Mush. Bye.